Hey guys, welcome back. I'm sitting down again with Alex Papadopoulos of Athletic Equation, who's back after successfully completing the HURT 100-mile trail race to tell us how it went.
Thanks for having me back, Brian.
You're welcome. How did it go?
It went. It's finished. Got it done. HURT, let alone any 100-miler, is never an easy ordeal, as you know. And this one. It was a challenge, a little bit tougher. It was a little bit more special for me than the previous finishes that we had, and what made it unique? Delving into the answer directly, I had a injury last May, and that injury, first of all, fortunate. What happened. It could have been a lot worse. We were canyoneering in southern Utah. And me and a log, we met each other, and we did not like each other. And I fell with that log about 8 feet, and as scary as it sounds, it crushed my foot. A crushing blow. Me and the log came down. It came down on my foot like that. And by all means, I walked away with a little Godsmack and a little note of my mortality and how lucky we are to be here.
And 9 months later, finished a 100-mile race.
Yeah. And then, I was due to run. 3 days later, I was due to run another 100.
3 days. Oh, you were in Utah to run 100.
Yeah, we were there for our 15th anniversary. Had a little 5-day getaway. Christine was to fly back the following morning, and then I was driving up to Idaho to meet up with a buddy, and we were going to run the Scout Mountain 100. Let's just say that didn't happen.
Didn't happen that way.
And was very fortunate with the injury. It took a lot of time, a lot of recovery, a lot of effort, and it wasn't just me. It was a whole group of people between coach, physical therapists, what have you, and a lot of dedication, patience on the family side too, between the training and that extra time to recover.
So while we're on that topic, do you want to give a plug to the physical therapist and the coach, because that might help some other people?
Yeah, absolutely. So two great folks, local person, Farouk El Qasid from, you probably know Farouk well. He is a legend within our community here in the DC and the VHTRC group. So he works at Access Physical Therapy. It's his PT office, physical therapy office, and he took care of me. Simultaneously with this injury, I went to Mountain Peak Fitness out of New York. I've known that group for about 8 years. Coincidentally, they're only about 20 minutes from my in-laws, so made it convenient. So like I said, I've gotten to know them over the years, and this was an injury where, as a coach myself, I was well out of my purview in terms of how to bring myself back the right way. And those two folks, along with the patients of my family and extended family, and a lot of friends, and their support, got it done. So
awesome.
It wasn't just a singular effort.
Awesome. And so you finished in 33 hours, 7 minutes, and 7 seconds, which is a ridiculous amount of time to be on your feet.
Tiring.
Right. It's tiring. Yeah. So we talked last time about, have you ever slept during a race? Did you take any naps or any time off your feet during this race?
With this one, no. This time around, no. There was no sleeping. It was always happy to finish. I knew it wasn't going to be my fastest time going into this race, having participated in it before, I knew that I would be struggling with that 36-hour cutoff. As you can see, with 3 hours cushion, I probably underestimated myself. But this was one of the few times where, because of the injury, I think a key to the 100s going into them, HURT or any other, is that you have to have that confidence going in. Have to have confidence in your training, in your physical ability, in your mental ability,
and you have to have a race plan and a good strategy. So what was your strategy going in?
Strategy, high level, get it done. For me, it's strategy. At the very basics, it's about self-management. These races, they're long, they seem arduous. I do believe that everyone can get them done. It's a matter of the commitment going into the event, and knowing the sacrifice not only you make but everyone else around you make to get to that start line. So my strategy, I like to focus on at high level things. You got your nutrition, you got your hydration. Throw in with the nutrition, hydration, you've got electrolyte management because you sweat a lot during these. Even if it's in cold, hot environments, you're always sweating. And personal hygiene.
Okay.
Yeah, and we know about that well.
Yeah, you don't want to screw that up.
Yeah,
third of the way through the race.
That has ruined a lot of people's races. And then you've also got your equipment too, your clothing, what you wear. So that if you want to say at the high level, there's these five elements, and you've got to roll those into a package, and you have to take care of them throughout the race.
So are you somebody that'll sit down beforehand and make, so I've made like an index card that I laminate sometimes that has projected times for, okay, if I want to run a 30-hour race or a 32-hour race, here's when I need to get to these certain marks. Do you do that?
This race I didn't. I've in a number of races I've done it before, and I have and not done it. I think it just depends on your personality. Some people, I've seen it where they've got these very intricate laid out cards, and and talking to them afterwards, that you could see that when they started to fall off that pace, that time goal was so important to them that they got wrapped up in that, and then that sort of starts a domino effect where you focus in on that. Maybe you forget about drinking enough water, or taking those electrolytes, or taking in enough calories. And then you go into this tailspin, and it just takes your mind into a bad place.
So you didn't have any sort of, and you must have had a sense for what certain times mean coming in and out of aid stations at Hurt, because you've run the race a number of times before.
So this case, so at the high level, that was my sort of management plan, and I could grill down into the details of how to do that. That could bore us to death.
Okay. All right. Fair. Well,
and by that I say that it's going to take up a lot of the conversation.
But here's why I asked that. So you finished in 32nd place, and I watched loosely the live results as they're coming up on Ultra Sign Up throughout the course of the day and a half that you were running, and I think, and I couldn't find them when I just looked just now, but I think you started as far back as 78th in some of the early aid stations, and then just slowly and methodically picked your way up the rankings. Not that ranking I don't think is terribly important to you, but it doesn't seem like you got passed by too many people as the race went on. So I'm wondering if that's planning or if that's just years and years of knowing how to run these races.
It's probably a bit of both. As we've gotten older, as we've known each other for a while in this sport, there's a lot of lessons learned, especially as you start to learn what your body goes through physically, but also what your mind's going to go through. So keeping a level head is always important. In this case, with this race, there's intricacies of Hurt. The details of it. It's 5 loops of 20 miles. And the way each loop is, it's configured, if you want to say, almost like a 3-leaf clover. So you've got this center point, which is up high, and you take the trails up about 6 miles up to a high point, and then you drop down into another valley. If you can visualize this on one end of the leaves, and you come back up, and you drop into another, then you come back up to this high center area, and that's where you've seen all the pictures of center area with all those roots.
Okay.
And then you drop back to the start-finish. So this becomes a 20-mile loop.
And so they're not, just so I understand, it's not 3 out and backs, 3 loops that equal 1 20-mile loop when you do them together. Do I have that right?
Yes,
So
all
and the big difference between those 3 loops and 3 out and backs is you never, unless somebody's passing you or you're passing them, you never see anybody.
Yeah, well, you do see them. So what's unique is, even though it's sort of like a 3-leaf clover, those segments reaching up to that sort of center point that I described are out and backs.
Oh, okay.
So, so even though it's a 20-mile loop, and you've got course markings as you go. I think the mileage is roughly between 12 and 13 unique miles of trail. So you do see people on 2 of the 3 sections very often. So
that's so important.
It is, and it's encouraging. So sometimes, as you know, in these races, you get caught in this bubble where you come into an aid station, you see the same people leaving, and then coming and leaving, but yet you never see them out on the trail, and you're in this like 5-minute window where you're really alone on the trail, and if you wait too long for someone to catch you, they'll pass you, or you go to the bathroom and you're off on the trail, they pass you, and then you never see them again. Except at the aid station, they're stuck 2 minutes ahead. Yeah, so with planning, with HURT, it's really, you've got this unique loop format. It's not a true loop, but yet you see people, so that's always encouraging. But the strategy is starting slow, but not necessarily so. Starting at a pace you're comfortable with, not overexerting yourself. Many times in these races, I'm sure you've experienced where you get the start of the race, you get caught up with all this energy, and there's such good positive vibes out there, and you get thrown into this, and you start off faster, and I've done it many times after all these years where you just start out a little faster than what you really should.
Well, I think you've described every race I've ever run.
And then and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's the excitement. It's a lesson to be learned where, all right, reserve yourself back, and there's different ways to do this. Sometimes it's just making sure that you start at the back of the pack, and then just pick your way forward, or start at the front with all the leaders and just pick your line and let people pass you, and not get hung up in their pace. And bottom line is making good decisions. It's going to make you be successful.
Yeah. So what didn't go according to your plan?
What didn't go according to my plan? Let's see. I can't complain too much. Little things. One aid station, we left one aid station at the start of a loop without my salt taps, going back to the electrolytes. That can be damaging. Fortunately, my crew realized that when I saw them at the next aid station 2.5 hours later, they had it.
Okay.
So that was also had enough foods at the aid station where I had enough salts with me. So I said, okay, we can. Going back to where going down domino effect. In many cases, if you're not comfortable with what you have as your plan set up, then a situation like this could precipitate other problems, and eventually your race ends with the DNF or less than adequate results. So that said, it was like, okay, I've got this plan. This plan didn't work. What can I do to mitigate until I can rectify? So if that's not getting too analytical, yes, all right. I had everything else was going great for me. I was like, okay, this is a small step. When I get to the next aid station, they've got soups there. They've got.
So where in the race did that happen? Is that early, middle, late?
So this happened early.
Yeah.
So the start was good. It was at the end of the first loop, and it was just something simple. We missed something. I said, go ahead and empty my pack. And unbeknownst to me, I already had put my salt in my pack. So when my crew emptied my pack to put in new stuff,
just took it back out.
Yeah, they just took it back out. They didn't know. So that's on me. Because at the end, it's all on me.
That was in my head, and I wasn't going to say, any mistake is yours, but yeah.
Yeah, because at the end, you're accountable, just like the race is accountable for where we're at. I'm accountable to myself in the race to have a good performance. So that was fun. And the other thing that happened in the evening, one thing that is unique about HURT that makes it difficult is it's one of the few races, most races, hundreds are in the summers. In that summer block. Right. This one, even though it's in Hawaii, in January, you have 13 hours of darkness.
Wow.
The sun goes down at 6:30 at night, and it's not coming up till about 7 in the morning.
Okay. So what time does the race start?
So it starts at 6 a.m. So you start
6 a.m. So you get 12 hours of light, 13 hours of dark, 12 hours of light.
Yeah. And it's a long night, and you move slower. I mean, you move slower. And in two of the segments at night, which probably totaled about 6 hours, 5.5 to 6 hours, I left consecutive. So it's with the expression putting in your hand in the fire once, and then if you put it in again, you get what you deserve. I left those aid stations with less than 200 calories.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
for 6 hours.
Yeah, well it was consecutive. So I left the aid station. I was like, oh man, 200 calories. What do I do? I was like, all right, I can get to the next aid station. Everything, like I said, everything else is going right between the hygiene, the hydration, the electrolytes were back square again. The gear was working great, and I just my pacer, Tyler Tajima, he took care of me great during the night. He offered me some stuff up, and as you know, you get to a certain point, and you're just like, no, I'm not touching that.
Right.
You just know it's gonna set you sideways.
Right.
So I didn't touch any of the food he had, and got into the next aid station. Lost a bit of time there. Decided to spend about 10 minutes just getting caught up on calories, liquids, and all that. And we left. I didn't make the same mistake again. And let me tell you, I was pretty pissed off at myself. I mean, I deserve this. Yeah. We got to the top of the mountain, and I just told Tyler, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to finish this. And he just looked at me. He was like, shut up, you idiot. Keep walking. And then the expression, like, you've done this enough times to know you're going to finish this, so shut up and keep walking. So I needed that. And we got back down the mountain and recovered, and we finally got food back in my pack, and lesson learned, and we kept going. But so that was that made it a little bit challenging. Did I lose time? Maybe, but who cares? I think the point was that psychologically I was able to recover, emotionally I was able to recover from it, and keep going and finish.
Did anything go easier than you thought it would be?
What went easier this time around? I would say, the whole race went easier. And part of that,
easier than last times, or easier than you thought it would be coming in with a 9-month injury?
Yeah, with the 9-month with the 9-month injury. What made it easier this year was unique. The first time in about 10 years, we had rains. We had rains on the course for 3 weeks prior.
Okay.
So it rained every day in the mountains in Hawaii.
Okay.
And it's just mud, slop. And this was unique, so made a conscious effort this year to use poles, something that was different.
Oh.
So in the past, I haven't used poles before. Part of the poles were with the training, with the injury, but also recognizing from the past years that you lose a lot of energy when you're trying to slop through mud. Right. For every really, even though you're moving a step forward, it's probably 2 or 3 steps of energy, 2 or 3 strides of energy, just from the slip and slide. You're not going like this; your legs are going like that.
Yeah, it's all those little muscles in the sides of your calves that never get used that are going back and forth in the mud, right?
Yep. All those little stabilizers that you probably don't use on a regular basis. So what went really well on my end was using the sticks, using poles this year, and using them for 100-miler. I probably used them over 50% of the time. And luckily with each loop, almost like economies of scale. Where it's like, all right, after the first loop, it's like, all right, I know in this section when I come back, the poles are coming out. They're there for 20 minutes, or for the next 2 miles, and then all right, I can wrap them up, and then we're going up the mountain. There's no mud, but at the top of the mountain, it's all muddy again. So out come the sticks, downhill mud, repeat again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you stayed out there with your family after the race for a couple of days?
Yeah, we did that. Great experience with them. We stayed with our friends from Japan, Tomokazu Uehara and his family. Had some good times with them. Then we went up to the North Shore for 4 days alone. And Disney does have a little resort there. So for you and the kids.
For me. Like, I'm not running hurt, my friend. I got news for you.
You can get it done. So we had a good week afterwards. Beforehand, we took 3 days, went to the Big Island, saw some friends. And it was a good family experience all around.
Awesome.
And that's really what it's about.
Awesome. And then you just, your company just put on the first race of the year.
Yeah, we just knocked out, got back from Hawaii, and then 5 days after that,
why rest?
No, there's no need for it.
Yeah.
We can do that later when we're retired.
Yeah.
Doing other great things. Yeah, so we knocked out the IC8. We had over 150 registrants. And it's a ultra course race really geared towards beginners, newbies. But it also attracts very competitive folks alike. It's a figure 8 looped course. I know you ran it.
I've run it a couple times.
Okay,
yeah.
That's right. So the figure eight, if you want to visualize it, the bottom part of the figure eight is always larger than the top. The lower loop is 4.7 miles. The upper loop is 3.3. So that gives you a total of 8 miles if you do the figure eight.
Right.
Icy 8.
Okay.
And you also have 8 hours.
It's 8 hours.
Yeah. So in effect, you have 2 loops, a 4.7 and 8 mile loop that runners need to strategize for 8 hours to maximize their miles.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a little bit of strategy in play. But it's also a great opportunity for beginners because every time at the end of a loop you come to your main aid station.
Mm-hmm.
So this year was awesome. We had 33 brand new first-time ultra runners, which was at the end of the day was 1/3 of our full population, which was awesome.
That's awesome.
And we give special awards for those guys, commemorating their crossover into the abyss.
And my favorite part of that race is you run it. I think it's Groundhog Day weekend.
Yes.
And so I don't know if you did it this year, but you have a groundhog division. So you can elect to run what I'll call the 5 mile loop or the 8 mile loop.
Yep.
And you could, every time you come back to the aid station, you could choose, do I go out on the 5 or the 8? Right. Well, if you elect to do the groundhog division and run the same loop in the same direction every time, there's a special award category for it. And you have very few people enter that division. So every time I've run it, I've got an award, which is, for somebody like me, it's nice. I never get awards at any races.
This year, surprisingly, we had 15 folks.
Yeah,
they that signed up, and none of them went off course. As you know, the stipulation.
It's kind of hard to get lost there.
It's honor system, but people have done it. And this year, one of our great volunteers, Dave Robertson, he's put sign. He goes out now and we put signs at every intersection. I let him take over the course marking. He said, let me do it. I'll take care of it. So I think that helps out a lot. But as you remember, people get lost or they get turned around somehow on a loop. And the rule is you can keep running, but kindly disqualify yourself because
it gets hard with the brain and 30 miles on your feet.
Yeah, it does. It always does. Doesn't matter the distance. It's just it's a different kind of push that versus a 100 miler because you can run a little bit more, you can push harder, and then you're also battling the clock.
Yeah.
And
well, but I mean, to your point about the honor system, it's at the end of the day, nobody else cares what your time was. Nobody else cares, And so if you're lying to win a wooden award, you got bigger problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I always like to say at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. We don't. Maybe that's a little too coy, but
no, I don't think so. No. So, anything in the bag you want to talk? You bought a bag. Is that just your stuff?
I just brought that in. I brought that in. I could pull out some of the gear. I didn't bring my shoes. I'll pull out. No, I brought that in. I was gonna get changed because I got to go from here directly to a run.
We'll cut this part out.
I can pull out the gear. I'll show it to you later. The one thing I didn't mention about the hurt. I've gone there year after year, and there's plug in the race. Absolutely is what I'm going to do right now. No sugarcoating it. It's a unique, special race, and every 100 miler is, and you start to see there's a family that develops around these hundreds, and you'll see why people start to come back. Hurt especially, the incredible volunteers, the race management, and to experience. I dressed the part today. Have a little bit of fun with our talk about it, and they use the expression of ohana, which means family in Hawaiian, and people will use that, but until you really go there and experience either as a racer or as a volunteer. And that's really what brings us back. Not just me, but as a family that we keep coming back because my wife and my girls are at the aid stations, and even though they're crewing me while they're waiting for me, they're helping out other runners. And it's a special part of the race where you really, and then there's a great award ceremony afterwards. And that's really what draws us is being part of that family. And you go back there, and we haven't seen a lot of these folks for years, or 8 years for the whole year. And and it's like with really good friends where you don't miss a beat. You come back, and I haven't seen you in a few months. Well, that's not true. We talked about 6 weeks ago. But,
before that, it'd been a while.
Yeah, and it's as if we didn't miss a beat. We talked about running, then we'll get into the family, other things that are going on in life. And that's really the way it is over there.
I think it's the whole shared suffering creates bonds. Sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because I've had the same thing at your races, right? You see the same ultra running community is not that large, and so you see the same, 30 to 50% of people coming back race after race after race.
You do. So. I think, and as an organizer, you sense that you've accomplished something that's greater than the race itself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, maybe that's the goal of these things. The personal accomplishment, but these interactions that we develop as humans, these dyadic relationships, those are the ones that propel us forward in life.
So do you have a date for the 12-hour race in September?
You're waiting on that.
You're shoring that up, yeah. I'm waiting on it because I'm deciding whether or not I can run it.
We're looking at 13 September.
Okay. I'll look at that.
Right now.
Yeah.
It could jump to the 19th.
Okay.
But right now we're slated for the 13th.
Okay.
So hopefully.
So I can hold off on my commitment until you make a decision.
Tell you what, I'll put it up. You put me on the spot. We'll have it set within. We'll have it set within 2 weeks.
Okay. I thought you were gonna pick a date here.
I wish I could. We've got a couple irons in the fire that could force us on a date change. That's why we haven't released the registration yet.
Well, let me know. I would love to come out and see if I can still do 50 miles in 12 hours.
I think you could.
We'll see. Huh? We'll see.
Here, how's this for a shameless plug? Check out the folks at Mountain Peak Fitness.
Okay. Absolutely.
No, but they've done great. It's great seeing you again.
Yeah, man. You too. Alex Papadopoulos.
Brian Glass.